All right, welcome, guys. This is Breakfast with the Brand, the number one podcast in the world for entrepreneurs and leaders like yourself who want to go to the next level. Of course, I am your host, Junior Frederick, and I am joined by the phenomenal Bobby Jackson. What's up, Bobby? How you doing?
I'm doing phenomenal, Junior. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk business, branding, leadership. So I'm feeling 100% motivated, 100% dedicated, and 100% committed. Thank you for asking.
Yes, sir. Before we get into it, I want to send a quick shout out to all of our phenomenal people listening, and I want to say Happy New Year. Let me just shout out a few of our people I see. Jordan Knox. So Jordan Knox, shout out to you. He says good morning from DC. Shout out to DC. I see Tia Rogers. Tia says terrific Tuesday. Everyone have a blessed week ahead. Day two. That's right, day two. We're gonna talk about that. Day two. What are you going to do? That's right, day two. What are you gonna do? I see Lawana. Shout out to Lawana. Good morning, all. Happy Tuesday. I see Rhonda. So Rhonda Hutchinson, phenomenal morning. Phenomenal morning to you, Rhonda. And I see Bradley. So shout out to Bradley as well. Listen, guys, it is officially day two of 2024. It is officially day two of 2024. And listen, Bobby, man, it's been let me ask you, Bobby, how has it been for you? I know for me, it has definitely been a very, very transformative sort of time where I've been reviewing a lot of stuff. I've been taking action. I've been working out twice a day without fail. So guys, it's day two. I'm already on my first workout, working out twice a day, eating once a day. Just a couple of my resolutions, man. So what about you? How's it going for you so far?
Yeah. For me, it's been 2024 kicking the door. Like that's been my energy. That's been my energy. So it's like if there is a door standing in my way, it's coming down. Gas pedal, full throttle kind of energy for me. But that's what it's been like, Junior, on my side.
That's right. Now, guys, before we get into it, I want to send greetings from Shaan. Shaan is unable to be here this morning, but he does send his love, his respect, his greeting. And guys, let's get started, Bobby. So, what I actually want to talk about, number one, is New Year's resolutions. Now, if you're listening to my voice and you were able to, put together a few New Year's resolutions, go ahead and put a number one in the comments. So if that's you and if you have some resolutions for this year, 2024, put a number one somewhere in the comments. Bobby, I know I've been working on my resolutions for quite some time. That's so funny because I actually started doing my New Year's resolutions at the beginning of December. I'm like, hold on. I'm not gonna wait until the last day of the year or the first day of the new year to start putting together some resolutions, things I want to change about myself. So I see
Mhm.
Jordan says number one. Anybody else? Put it in the comments. Do you have any New Year's resolutions? Bobby, my first question to you is number one, well, do you have any New Year's resolutions? And number two, do you have a system? Like, I'm curious to know, because you're such an interesting individual. Like, do you have a system that you use to really and truly manage New Year's resolutions? Because we know that by day number seven, most people have forgotten about all of those resolutions. Like statistically, it's like it's like those people they go to the gym maybe first day of the year, and then the following week it's like nah, they're not there, nowhere to be found. So Bobby, like, do you have any resolutions, any that you like to share if possible, and also like what has been the linchpin for you that has allowed you to be consistent when it comes to your resolutions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say personally, I prefer New Year's evolution than New Year's
Okay.
resolutions because a resolution is pretty much to resolve. They're saying, what are you determining to do this year? What have you resolved to do? And sometimes we can struggle to keep our commitments. We can struggle to keep our word. So if you say, I'm going to do A, B, C, D as a New Year's resolution, not really knowing where the word resolution may come from or what resolve really means. You might not really be taking into consideration what you're saying. You're saying that I'm going to commit to doing A, B, C. And just frankly, we can struggle with commitments to ourselves, commitments to others, and things of that nature. So, what I prefer to do is I prefer to think of what version of me do I need to evolve into this year? And as I think of this evolved
Mhm.
version of myself, I say to myself, okay, what needs to happen in order for this version of me to evolve? And instead of trying to find resolutions to do, I go and I find problems to put myself in, more like
Mhm.
pressure. Because once I put myself in the pressure, the pressure and the problem produces the evolution. Now, if I try to
Mhm.
resolve and I say I'm going to commit to something and all these other things, I don't have any outside pressure to actually keep me in alignment. So what I do is I leverage my tendency to try to get out of something, and I say I'm not even going to commit in that way. I'm going to put myself into a situation that I can't get out of. And I
Mhm.
normally do that with investments or with biting off a huge task and letting people know that that's what I'm going to do. And then the pressure, either I quit or I finish. And if I finish, I evolve. If I quit, then it didn't matter enough. Like I let it slip. So that's my approach.
That's amazing, Bobby. I do have some insight on what you just said.
Mm.
I wrote down find pressure. I wrote down find pressure. And I also wrote down drive and I wrote down motivation. So I heard a very, very inspirational person say that motivated people get destroyed by every single thing that comes in their way. And driven people destroy every single thing that comes in their way. Let me see that again. So motivated people get destroyed by things that come into their way, and driven people destroy everything that comes into their way. So
Yeah.
when you talk about finding the external pressure, that's so interesting because I don't know if I don't really look for the external pressure. I look for the internal pressure. I look for the internal, like what's inside of me that's going to drive me to do what I need to do. But I also agree with you when you said that, as human beings, we just have trouble keeping commitment to ourselves. It doesn't matter like what level you're at. You could be starting, just starting from point zero. You could already be at point 10 or 100. A lot of us have challenges keeping promises that we make to ourselves. So here's what I decided to do, and maybe this will give some people some insight. So I actually wrote down five things just before our call. I wrote down five things that I did, five steps that I took, going through my sort of quote unquote New Year's resolutions, right? So number one is gain clarity on your vision. So I had to sit down and really and truly gain clarity on my vision. I believe that you could never have too much clarity. There's always a vision or a perspective that is closer to reality that you don't see right now. And I believe that the more you see things as close to reality as possible, the more successful you become. So number one is gain clarity on your vision. Number two is decide on your purpose for that vision. So the purpose for that vision is what creates the fuel for you to move forward and for you to really drive and press through the difficult times. Like if you have a vision and you have no purpose for that vision, like if there's no purpose for growth, then no growth occurs. So like you just said, Bobby, you find that external pressure, you put that external pressure on yourself, so it gives you a reason why you need to do what you need to do. And purpose in this context doesn't have to be, something mystical or magical. It could literally just be something very pragmatic that you need to get done. It could literally be you trying to enjoy a better quality of life. It could be you trying to build a bigger house, you trying to build a bigger business, you trying to, spend more time with your kids, whatever it may be, right? It could just be something pragmatic. So number three is visualize the person that you need to be in order to get that vision.
Mm.
So Sean often says it's not about the what, it's about the who. And I found that to be true. So who are you doing it for? Like I found that if it's just up to me doing something for myself, I'm like, okay, I might do it, 90%. But if I'm doing it for somebody else, if I'm doing it for a client, or if I'm doing it for my son or my partner, then I go 110%. Number four, and this is the breakthrough for me. Okay, the only thing that's different between what I did last year and what I did this year is this. So Bobby, I was literally sitting down. I think it must have been like the 30th or the 31st. No, it was the 30th. It was a Saturday. Saturday was the 30th, right? It was Saturday. I was sitting down, I was chilling, and I was thinking to myself, like, how do you actually follow through on a resolution? How can you actually, because it's easy to say, yeah, it's easy to say New Year's resolutions, this is what we're gonna do, but how do you actually do that? And I started to realize that, as human beings, we're just so flawed. We can be so flawed as human beings when it comes to, setting those things and actually accomplishing them. Okay, but guys, listen. I found a breakthrough. I found something that I'm personally using. It's very, very simple. It's not complicated, and anybody can do it as long as you could, wrap your mind around the concept. Now, we will be going to a short break. I believe we are due for a break. But guys, stay tuned. When we come back, I'm going to reveal the revelation that I have, that I personally use for myself, and hopefully, and I really and truly believe that you'll be able to take my revelation and apply it to your life. Stay tuned. This is Breakfast with the Brand. Let's grow.
There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 plus 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 plus 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 plus 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 plus 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence, add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are, so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle.
All right, guys, so we're back. We're talking about New Year's resolutions. And I was just giving, just my personal insight into what I do, into what I've done this year in order for me to go to the next level. So I'll run through the steps one more time. I know we have a few people just coming on. So number one is gain clarity on your vision. Number two, decide on your purpose for that vision. Number three, visualize the person that you need to be. And check this out. I said visualize. So not think, not think about the person you need to be. Like actually visualize, who that person is, what they actually look like, what are they doing? How do they dress? How do they move? How do they speak? Visualize that person. And number four, Bobby, which is I was just about to drop just before the break, is so I'm sitting on the couch, okay? I'm just relaxing. I'm not going out. I'm just thinking. I'm strategizing. I'm planning. You know, I'm thinking about really and truly how can I conquer 2024? And I asked myself, what was the difference in 2023? Now, guys, I'll just be 100% transparent. There are some resolutions I set in 2023 that I didn't do in 2022 that I didn't do in 2023. Okay, we all do. Like we're none of us are perfect. Okay, but I'm asking myself like, how can I get better? Okay, so you don't have to be perfect, but you have to want to get better, right? So how can I get better? And I'm saying to myself, what was the missing piece for me? And then I realized that as human beings, we are emotional creatures. Okay, so we are creatures of emotion, and emotion sometimes clouds judgment. It clouds judgment, which clouds action. So what we find is that there are a lot of people setting New Year's resolutions with all the good intention, all the motivation, all the drive, but for some reason, like Bobby was saying, they just cannot follow through on that thing. And I really and truly ask myself, what is the reason why we can't follow through? Like, I want to understand as close to the truth as possible. And Bobby, what I think it is once we are left to our own devices, once we have to think, like, it sort of clouds our judgment and it prevents us from taking action. So I said to myself, if thought, conscious thought, okay? So conscious thought meaning that, hey, you're gonna make a diet change, but you go out with your friends or you wake up in the morning, like, and then you decide, like, what do I have to eat? Then you go to the fridge, okay? And then you have all of these options. And
Yeah.
sometimes when you have too many options, you make the wrong decision, right? How many of you could relate? Put a number one. So let's just use the simple example of diet, okay? When you wake up in the morning, and check this out, I want to do a test. So how many of you, when you wake up in the morning, you have to decide what you're gonna eat? Like, you have to make a decision about that. How many of you today you're gonna have to make a decision about when you eat, and you're gonna have to make a decision about what you eat for lunch? Now it sounds like a very trivial question, but check this out. So the mere fact that you have to make a decision right there in that moment is what is causing the error. Think about that. Like, the fact that you have to make a decision in the morning is causing an error. So here's what I did. I dissected my life, okay? And I asked myself, what are parts of my life that I could automate, that I could arrange so that I didn't have to think about? And what you find is that if you make a decision, okay, a decision means to make an incision, and you decide what you can automate, and you automate the things that are going to bring you to your success as much as possible, so you don't have to make decisions in the moment. You make the decision when you actually make the decision, you find yourself becoming more successful. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I wanted to lose like 10 pounds in a month, okay? Here's what I would do. I would make a decision on what to eat. I would make a decision on when to eat. And I would automate that process as much as possible so that on my day to day, I didn't have to keep making that decision over and over again. Because I guarantee you this, on Monday, you're going to make a decision that's going to be different from Tuesday. And on Tuesday, you're going to make a decision that's different from Wednesday. You see, all of this leads to a type of inconsistency that throws you off track and prevents you from hitting your goal. So, for your business, what can you automate? And automation doesn't mean only through technology. What I'm talking about is automating the decision making process so you don't have to keep making the same decisions and keep making multiple mistakes. So, Bobby, when I woke up this morning, I didn't have to think about what I had to do. I already knew what I was eating. I already knew what I was drinking. I already knew when I was working out. I already knew what I was reading. I didn't have to think about it. I just did it. I just did it. There was no emotion involved. There was no, let me see not say any emotion. Very, very little. There's minimal emotion involved. Because listen, you wake up in the morning, you may not want to work out, okay? But you already made the decision to work out. You know you're working out at 5 a.m. You know you're gonna eat coffee for breakfast. You know you're not gonna eat until 4. You've already made those decisions. And once you could automate those pieces of your resolutions, Bobby, what I found is that the automation is what helps you stay on track. Automation could be also through people. So let's just say that you have a private chef, okay? Somebody who prepares your meals. It doesn't have to be a private chef, just be a partner, just be a friend, or maybe you go to a restaurant every day. You call that restaurant and you say that I'm coming in every single day, I'm coming in at this time, and this is what I want to eat. Okay, you make arrangements and you automate the decision making process in your life as much as possible to prevent you from making the errors that come when the time comes for you to make those decisions, and then you have to go one way or the other way. One way is pushing you closer to your goal, to your desire, to your resolution, and the next way is pushing you further from it. Because check this out, as human beings, when faced with those decisions, guess what we often do? We often take the latter one, okay, that pushes us further away. But if you've already made that decision, and if you've automated that decision making process as much as possible, then it takes away from the stress, the strain, the inconsistency as much as possible. And hey, it may allow you to hit your goals more frequently with more consistency and also with less resistance and less energy. And that has been something that has worked for me.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna let that set. Junior, I feel like you gave them a lot there to write down and keep up with. I saw some ones in the chat. I saw Lawana say, we are evolving. It's important to give ourselves grace. So a lot of people are understanding exactly what you're saying, this process of executing resolutions. One thing that I remember from the military is when I went to boot camp, it was much like what Junior said. It was a very automated experience. The drill instructor woke us up at 4 a.m. every morning. We put our boots on, we put our trousers on, we put our blouses on every morning in that order. We had so many seconds to do it. Then we would go to the head, what is known as the restroom, and we would shave our faces and we'd brush our teeth and we'd be back on line, so to speak. So back on line means in front of our racks, ready to go. And once we got back online, it'd be going to the chow hall. That's where you go to eat. And we go to the chow hall and we would march in unison. And that was the process. That was the system. That was the automation. And we did it every day. So when we talk about executing without thinking, I think that's important when we think about how motivation can come and go, you know, because many of us have this New Year's energy about us right now. It's a New Year's energy. And I wrote down, is New Year's energy a crutch or a clutch, right? So in America and different US places, Western, we say clutch, meaning that it's something you can leverage when you really need it. If someone shoots the 3-point shot that wins the game with no seconds on the clock, we say that was a clutch play. So is New Year's energy clutch or is it a crutch? And most of us know what a crutch is, simply something that isn't helping us, but it's appearing to help us. It's something that's actually making us less effective the more we use it. So I think doing it the way Junior has talked about can help eliminate the different crutch features of motivation, of the New Year's resolution energy that often dissipates in about 7 days. And I also noticed that Jordan said, establish healthy patterns to increase consistency, focus on stacking small wins. I think that's important too, because I personally believe that there's this sort of gravitational pull that comes from stacking wins on top of each other. So if you have and this is psychological actually, there is a certain dopamine release that happens when you get closer to a goal. So if there's a goal that's set out, say 90 days, and you are shortening that goal every day, the shorter that goal becomes, the more of a enhanced experience or dopamine release is experienced as you get closer to the goal. So they call that a reward system. So the brain has a reward system. And the closer we get to our goals, the shorter that space is between the time we started or set the goal and the actual goal itself. There is a reward system in the brain that encourages us to follow that. So I think that that's interesting too. So I'll turn over a question to Junior. I just wanted to let you guys know what I received from that clinic that we just got from Junior. But one of my questions for him that I wrote down was, what do you do when you start off the year wrong? Or if you started the year off wrong, let's say you were strong in 2023, December 25th, Christmas, you were consistent. The day after, you were consistent. You set all your stuff out. And I mean, say January 1st was just a bust for you. How would you attack January 2nd?
Oh man, listen, I like what Lawana said. Lawana said something, or was it you? Let me see. I think it was actually Lawana. So Lawana says, as Bobby stated, we are evolving. It is important that we give ourselves grace when we haven't hit our mark. Acknowledge, forgive yourself, and press on. So that actually, like the answer to your question, I'm gonna say give yourself grace. Well, listen, guys, we're not perfect. No, I'm not. I'm certainly not perfect. None of us are perfect. We are going to fall short. That's what makes it interesting. Because listen, if you're number two on a scale of 10, that means you have 8 notches to go. If you're a number 9 on a scale of 10, that means you only have one more to go. I would much rather live life, starting as a number 2, knowing that I have 8 more to go, than to be almost perfect at a number 9, knowing that I only have one more to go, right? So I would say if you started the year wrong, I would say give yourself grace, number one, but also you have to do some analyzing and figure out why did you start wrong. Okay, so why did you start wrong? And really and truly, identify the real reason why you started wrong. And Bobby, what you find, I think it has a lot to do with what I just spoke about, like not automating those decisions. So, for example, let's just say one of your things were you're not gonna drink alcohol for the year. Okay, let's just say as an example, and then you never know, you go to a party, somebody has a New Year's party, etc., etc., and then you're faced with the decision, hey, do you want to get a drink? Okay, now you already you had it in mind not to drink alcohol for the year. Okay, but when the time comes and you're faced with that decision, it's like, do I do it now? Do I not do it? And sometimes you may not even remember. Most of us, what I find interesting is most of us that go against our goals, like in that moment, we don't even think about it. So somebody offers you a drink, you take it, and then after you drink it, you're like, oh, hold on, I forgot that I set the resolution, right? And that's typically what happens. So Bobby, I would say, give yourself grace, find out why did you go wrong, and I would take the lesson from it and just bear in mind, man, like we have 365 days. If you messed up one day, you still have 364 to go. So I'll say just get back on the track and just keep going. Like listen, when you look at somebody who is an elite player in their sport, so let's say soccer. So we have Lionel Messi, Ronaldinho. When you look at basketball, you have Michael Jordan. Some people like LeBron James. When you look at another sport, tennis, Serena Williams. Like when these people miss a shot, what do? They don't think about the shot. You don't see Michael Jordan, you know, of course he analyzes in the moment, like, why did I miss that shot? But he's not, moaning over the shot.
Mhm.
Ronaldinho smiles, Messi smiles, and he does a little thing and he just, walks away, right? So the people who are elite, they don't dwell on the mistakes. They don't dwell on the failure. They analyze failure, they take the lesson, and then they just move on. And that's what I would do.
Yeah, that's amazing because a lot of people get caught up on the game winning shot, like the buzzer beater. They get caught up on the shot that went into the goal that curved around like three different people and then boom, hit the net or like the corner post and went in. Like they get caught up on that shot and they don't really know all of the missed shots, all of the
Exactly.
things that happen either in the dark or in the game. They remember the one that wins, the one that matters. So I would say, in response to my own question, if you started the day off rocky, or if you started the year off rocky, the question then becomes, who's going to remember that one day if you finish the year strong? So if you win the year but you lost a
Yeah.
day or two, you lost a few days, but out of say 365, say you lost 60, but you hit 300 of the days that counted. That's pretty impressive. Let's say you
Yes, it is.
lost 100 days, but you got 200 days that counted. That's still equally impressive, especially if you only needed to hit 90 days. And granted, that may sound small, but 90 consistent days or 90 important days when you needed it to count, it counted, could transform your life. 90 good days, and then you turn those 90 good days into 100 good days the next year. So I think that New Year's resolutions can also be a bit deceiving, because we can say the New Year's resolution and we try to resolve 365 days in, say, one day, in one moment, one decision, which is admirable. You know, it's courageous to a degree to say, I'm going to resolve myself to 360 days, but 365. However, it's not very realistic. It's not very practical. And I'm all about dreaming big. I'm all about being beyond what is realistic, but there's also this level of like fantasy that doesn't help. There's this level of fantasy that says, man, if I can fly, so I jump off of this tower with no types of anything to help me stay in the air, it's not really going to go very well. Like that's too far, you know. So just figuring out what's not too far and what's far enough. But I'd also say, to add to New Year's evolution, my kind of approach to it and some of the goals that I set was figuring out how you're going to spend 24 hours. How are you going to spend your 24 hours? So an insight that Shaan gave me is having every day look the same, but having a certain way of doing things on those days. So let's say I have a productivity day and I've got a different type of day and I've got this other type of day. Now on my productivity day, I'm being productive. On my other day, I might be doing something that's in alignment with that day's tasks. And on another day, I'm doing something that, say, is in alignment with family or recovery, things of that nature. Now, what I like to do is I like to identify how many things I can do that are in alignment with the evolution that I'm trying to realize, and how much of that can be packed into 24 hours. Because the reality is we've all got 24 hours and we've got the same 24 hours over and over and over again. Like our clocks don't change. The only thing that may change is the amount of sunlight we get. But as we go into the next break, I'd definitely like you guys to think about changing the perspective from a New Year's resolution, from a 90-day challenge, like really bring it back to the present and say, I've got 24 hours and I get 24 hours, God willing, 365 times. How could I best leverage these 24 hours that I get over and over and over again to their greatest return on investment? And if you do that, I think you get a much more realistic approach to executing a phenomenal year.
Custom Model used to spit out numbers, and Mike Tyson would throw a combination and always knock out his enemy. When Mike Tyson lost Custom Model, he lost the title. Shaan Rais is your Custom Model, your Tyson. What I'm going to give you is a marketing system that's going to knock your competition out. So the 501 marketing system is a combination: jab, 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 uppercut, hook. I'm going to teach you how to give, surprise your ideal client, and then ask for the value that you're worth. And you're going to get it every single time. I'm going to teach you how to communicate in a crowded space in your client's language that's going to slice through the noise in the market and touch their inner souls and make them open their wallets. It is said that marketing is helping your ideal client open their wallet and take their money out. I'm going to show you how to do this in 5 simple steps. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, You're going to add a zero to the world, but you'll also add a zero to your revenue. Let's grow.
All right, guys. So we are back talking about New Year's resolutions. Bobby, I really love what you said, man. And that was actually gonna be something that I talked about next. Jordan said something. Jordan said, let me bring it up. He said, establish healthy patterns to increase consistency. Focus on stacking small wins. So, guys, as I sit before you today, I am only focused on today. I am only focused on today. So I was reading this book to open up the new year, Bobby. Like, I'm working out. In fact, I was listening to it. It's available on YouTube for anybody. It's called The Science of Getting Rich. Now, this is one of my favorite books of all time. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I listened to it. I must have listened to it like 20 times. And every single time I listen to it, I learn something different. Okay. And the author of that book talks about the principle of growth in nature. So it said that everything in nature continues to grow to its maximum ability. So when you look at a tree grows to be the biggest and the strongest tree that it can be. Okay. The animals often grow to be the biggest and the strongest animals that they can be. Okay. So we as human beings, we are the only things or creatures or intelligent life forms on earth that have a choice as to whether or not we can grow up and be all that we can be. Like, we can choose today. You can choose not to be all that you can be. Okay, so we have a choice. But once we start to understand the principle of growth, which states that you maximize your present place, and once you maximize your present place, you will have to grow. Like, life will force you to grow. So if you're in the wrong business and you maximize it, it will make it so that you get into the right business. It doesn't matter where you start. Okay. So if wherever you are right now in your business, in your life, today, how can you grow today? How can you maximize today? I guarantee you, if you maximize today, then tomorrow will force you to grow. It will put things in your perspective that's going to force you to grow and force you to grow into the person that you want to be. So, what I'm saying, Bobby, it's not possible to grow into who you want to be without mastering who you are.
Yeah, I
It's
agree.
not possible to grow into who you want to be without mastering where you are. So if we look at business, that's like saying, I want to be a CEO, but I've never done sales. Like, that's not going to happen. If you haven't mastered sales, you're not going to make a great CEO. Okay, that's like saying, I want to be a speaker, but I haven't mastered talking online, but I want to step on stage. You see what I'm saying? Like, you have to maximize where you are, and I really and truly believe that life will push you in the direction of who you want to be if you could master the person that you are today. So for me, I am only focused. Like, I have a vision, long-term vision, okay? 10 years, 20 years, 1 year, 3 months, 90 days, 100 days, but I'm only focused on today. How can I win today? And also, Bobby, how can I perform each act that I do today in the right way? And
Hmm.
what the right way is means mastering each single act. So right now, as I'm talking to you, how can I speak, to the best of my ability? When I'm in the gym, how can I work out to the best of my ability? When I'm writing copy, how can I write this copy to the best of my ability? And if you focus on making every single act successful, then there's no choice but to be successful, because success is a series of small acts. A series of small failures will lead to a life of failure. A series of small successes will lead to a life of success. So I'm only focused on today.
Yeah. I love the direction that this is taken as we talk about 24 hours in a day, small incremental steps, motivation, and emotion. I've been doing some study on emotion and I've been going deep in this because it's really important. Emotions are very involuntary. They're like thoughts, they're like the respiratory system. They're doing what they do, even if you tell them to or not. And that is one of the most interesting things about evolution is Something evolves, something has reached a level of evolution normally when it no longer is thinking about it. So our eyes have evolved to the point that we no longer think about seeing. We no longer think about focusing, so to speak. But if we were to think about it, we could greatly enhance our perception. Our lungs have grown so much that we don't think about breathing. They've evolved so much. So the emotions are the same thing. The emotions have evolved so much to the point that we don't think about them, and they constantly show up. So what that tells me is that at one point in life, emotions have been very essential to survival. And this is what's also very interesting. A lot of people struggle with their New Year's resolutions because of their emotions. A lot of people struggle with life because of their emotions. So I want to give you guys some things that I've learned about emotions and how I help manage my emotions in a positive way so that I can leverage my emotions and really get out of them what I believe they've been designed to do for us. But a lot of us, we don't really go back into our history to kind of figure out what emotions have ever been good for. So we just shun them, take pills to suppress them, or do things to get them out of the way. And I just don't think that's the best way. So here's what I've learned about emotions. They do two things. They signal and amplify. They send signals to the people around you, and they amplify the actions that you do. That's it. So if you have a negative emotion, then you don't have to say anything. People can what? Feel it, right? They can feel the energy. They can feel the emotion radiating off of you. If you are very happy and you're smiling, it's doing two things at the same time. It's amplifying the smile. It's making you shine a little bit brighter. And it's also signaling to the people around you that you're happy. So now we can think about the positive emotions and the negative emotions and how those are connected to your execution. You actually doing what you said you wanted to do and doing it well. So I've learned that when we have experiences, those experiences are then marked with whatever emotion we had while we did it. So if you have a positive relationship with confrontation, like you've always gotten to serious conversations, but at the end of the serious conversation, good things happen. You would have a positive relationship or positive emotion attached to that confrontation because your mind says, okay, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it always works out. If you have a confrontation of, say, verbal and you always blow up and end up hitting someone, then you'll have a negative relationship with that emotion. So it starts to make you feel like, you know what, that's not good. So here's one thing that I think is worth understanding and worth trying out this year is pay attention to yourself. Be aware of yourself because your emotions are involuntary and they're showing you who you've been. So how you respond to something, how you feel in a moment is telling you how you felt about that six years ago, how that impressed you 6 months ago. Emotions are normally just trackers of how we felt when we experienced something. And what the interesting thing is about emotions that really trip us up with staying consistent, with executing and all these different things is that emotions are so involuntary that they amplify the action that we're taking to the point that it takes over us. So if I hate doing schoolwork and I have a negative relationship with it, the emotion can sometimes arrest my action. The emotion can just take over. That negative emotion result connected to schoolwork makes me do the schoolwork amplified by that emotion. So all the action that I'm taking is one of, say, I'm not going to do well. I never do well. Never works out for me. It's hard. And we just get overwhelmed by that emotion. So really being able to pay attention to yourself and identify those emotions. And what you want to do is you want to retrain. You want to do it and you want to create the emotion in yourself that says, I've got this. I can do this. This is possible. And retrain your brain and control that emotion. So when you go into the gym the next day, when you normally had a negative relationship with the gym, oh, this hurts, I don't get results, go in there and create a new emotion. One that says, I enjoy the pain. I love this. The burn is good. And what you'll tend to do is that emotion will arrest your actions. You won't even think about going to the gym anymore in a negative way, but it will be more positive. So that's one of the pieces that I just wanted to share before we get out of here. I know we've still got a little more time to talk about some things, but emotions, they're interesting. But if you can get a hold of them, you can really leverage them to your benefit.
Yes, sir. Bobby, while you were talking, I'm just asking myself, like, how do I manage emotions? I've not asked myself that question really and truly, like consciously. How do I manage emotion? And I was just thinking about on the 31st. So I work out, guys. I work out every single day. So I work out 7 days a week. Okay, I don't recommend you do that. That may not be your thing. But I was working out 31st in the morning. Okay, so I'm saying, okay, this is the last day of 2023. I'm gonna stay consistent. I'm gonna kick off 2024 in the right way. And then I was doing this extremely difficult push-up routine. Okay, now I just noticed something about myself. Like there's a certain number that I hit every single time I do push-ups. Okay, and I realized that every time I hit that number, I stop. So I do a certain number to warm up, and then I hit that number, and then I stop. And I take a little break, I come back, and I continue, then I stop. And I ask myself, how come I always stop on this number? Okay? How come I always stop on this number? And in that moment, I was really self aware. And then I said, let's do one more. And then I did one more. And I did two more. And I did three more. And I did five more. And I did six more. So guys, the point I'm making is like one of the ways I feel like we could not just manage emotion but overcome it and dominate it and master it is by using the power of one more. Is by number one, like Bobby was saying, have the self-awareness to recognize where the emotion becomes a hindrance or becomes a crutch, as you say, Bobby, and overcoming the negative emotion by building the momentum using one more. So if it's you, and if you maybe you don't like posting on social media, a lot of people don't like posting on social media. How can you do one more? If it's you and you don't like, maybe you want to eat a little later during the day. Maybe you often eat at like 8 a.m. and maybe you're like trying to eat later. Maybe you're trying to eat like 12 a.m., 12 p.m. Excuse me. How can you do one more? How can you go to 9 a.m.? How can you go to 10 a.m. every single day? How can you do one more each day? If you don't like working out, maybe you don't like doing squats. Like I hate burpees. Like I absolutely hate it. But how can you do one more? If you often do 10 and you give up, how can you do 11? And what you'll find is that once you have enough momentum, okay, and once you have enough persistence, you blow past those limits because momentum leads to speed. So if you look at an airplane on the track, okay, the only reason an airplane gets off the ground is because it has enough speed. It has enough momentum. It's developed enough momentum going down the track. A lot of us are trying to get off the track, so to speak, with our life, with our fitness, with our health, with our business, with our relationships, okay? But we're not being consistent enough to develop the momentum to get the speed so that we can take off. So whether it's entrepreneurship or whether it's life, you're going to have to move at a certain speed, quite literally and figuratively, okay? So you could take off. Like we talk about going to the next level, we talk about taking off. How are you developing the momentum to take off? Like you're not gonna just become a different person overnight. So it said that 21 days change habits, 100 days change an identity. I'm not into changing habits. I'm into changing my identity. And the identity only changes after you develop that momentum by, doing what we've been talking about, by seizing the 24 hours, by taking control of the day, by taking control of the hour, by taking control of the moment. Like whatever you're doing right now, listen, whatever you're doing right now, whether you're reading, whether you're in the kitchen and you're cooking, okay, whether you're hanging out with your kids right now, whatever you're doing, whether you're working on a business plan, whether you're writing a document, whether you're doing a sale, whatever, focus on doing that thing in a perfect way, in the right way, to develop the momentum that's going to help you develop the speed so that you could take off on the runway of life, on the runway of business, on the runway of your relationships, on the runway of your health, on the runway of your spiritual life. Like for me, Bobby, I'll tell you something about me. At a certain point, I didn't like meditation. Okay, I just didn't. I felt like I was very jumpy, right? So when I would sit down and I would try to meditate, after like a few minutes, I'll feel like, man, I need to do something else. I need to get up. Okay, I need to move. Why am I doing this? This doesn't do anything for me, right? And I noticed I was very uncomfortable. I was very like jumpy. I wasn't still. So then I said, how can I do one more? How can I do 5 minutes today? How can I do 6 minutes the next day? How can I do 7 minutes the next day? Then eventually I did 15 minutes, then 20 minutes. Okay. But the way you do it is by focusing on the 5 minutes and doing it as perfectly as possible. And like I was saying, the principle of growth, as long as you could do whatever you're doing today in the right way, meaning doing it to the maximum ability, life, just by the principle of life, it's just a law of life. You will grow. You have no choice but to grow. If every single act is successful, then you have no choice but to be successful. If every single act is a failure, then you have no choice but to be a failure. How you do one thing is how you do everything. If you don't, the fact that you don't eat, or the fact that you don't stick to your diet that you set for yourself is the reason why you don't stick to the things that you set in your business. Okay, there's no difference. Because the same person that is acting in the kitchen is the same person that's acting in the business. So how you do one thing is how you do everything. So for me, that tells me that if I want to be successful, I just need to try my best. And I'm saying try my best because, like I say, we're not perfect. I just need to try my best to do every single thing that I do in the right way. So I know that if I kill it at the gym, I can kill it in the business. I know if I stay consistent with my diet, I can stay consistent with my family. And I know if I can stay consistent with my family, I can stay consistent with my spiritual life because you carry you every single place you go. So
Yeah.
that's my take on that.
Yeah, that's a great way for us to kind of bring it to a head, today. I know we've got a few minutes left, but if I had to add anything to that piece, because it was so eloquent, it's just about all you need to know. If your goal is to get holistic progress, is simply be the person. But the only thing that I would add to being the person would be envision the greatest version of yourself and hold it. And when you do whatever it is you're doing, try to do it as if you're that person. And that's also a insight from the book that Junior is referencing. So if you see yourself as a great lawyer, then do everything you do, even if it's studying, with a lawyer's type eloquence. If you are a speaker, teacher, consultant, business owner, think of yourself as a mogul. And when you execute with a mogul's confidence, with a mogul's energy. And what you'll find is that you will become that person because everything that you're doing is infused with that energy. So as you're becoming the person, envision yourself as the greatest version of yourself that you can be and execute as if you were already there. And you'll pull your future into the present.
Yes, sir. Want to send a quick shout out to Sean. So Sean, wherever you are in the world, good morning to you. Phenomenal morning. So Sean says team went deep for you guys today. Phenomenal morning, guys. Put some flames in the chat for Sean. He's tapping in as well. All right. So man, listen, it's been an amazing show. I believe we're at our time. But guys, put it in the comments. What was your number one takeaway for today? What did you learn? Put some flames if you enjoyed it. Listen, this is only the second day of 2024. We have so much coming up for you. We have so much to do, so much to show you, so much insight. This is like literally our life. So I'm literally telling you this as I learn and as I grow. And I know Bobby's doing the same. So you're getting it every single day, like literally hot off the press. Okay, guys. So I just want to say thank you to every single person that has supported us in 2023. We definitely appreciate it. We don't take it for granted. And I want to say peace, prosperity, success, progress for 2024. And listen, if you have resolutions, make sure you stick to them. Find a community that can keep you accountable because accountability is a big thing. But also remember to act perfectly today and do everything you can today in the right way. And every small successful act leads to a life of success. And that's my 2 cents. What about you, Bobby?
I think you covered just about everything there. A kick in the door in 2024. That's my energy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow. Let's go.